Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be comparing between Flutter and React Native. So both Flutter and React Native are really awesome app development frameworks. So the goal of this video is to help you to choose which of these frameworks you'd like to learn further, whether you're looking to get yourself a job as an app developer or you have a side project you're trying to develop an app. In order to help you decide which two will be best suited for you, I'll list out a couple of characteristics which are contained by both Flutter and React Native. That way you'll be able to compare what matters most for you, whether it's for your job or for your upcoming projects, when deciding which of the two you should go with. Before we get to talking about their differences, let's take some time to talk about what they have in common. Both Flutter and React Native are supported by really big companies. Flutter was developed by Google, while React Native was developed by Facebook. Both companies have really talented developers working on them, so we can be assured both of them are really good products. Another thing they have in common is hot reloading. Hot reloading allows you to quickly test your app as you build it, so that you don't have to build a whole simulator as is common when you're building stuff using native app development. So it's something really awesome to have as you build your apps. Another thing they have in common is performance. Both Flutter and React Native have really good performance. So when deciding between the two, that's one factor that shouldn't worry you at all. So the first thing we're going to talk about when comparing the two are the components. Flutter comes with a ton of components developed by the team at Google, which are shipped with Flutter. React Native, on the other hand, comes with less components than Flutter, but you can develop whatever component you'd like using third-party libraries. Another thing we can look at when comparing the two are the languages. Flutter uses the Dart language in order to develop, while React Native uses JavaScript. This might be something to consider when you're deciding which of the two to learn, because JavaScript is widely known by a number of developers and you have a huge support and a huge community of JavaScript developers, while Dart is a bit newer, but it's still a very easy language to learn and you still do get a lot of support. Another factor I would like to compare between the two is the documentation. Here Flutter has an edge because Flutter documentation is so well written and very easy to understand and work with. React Native, on the other hand, uses a lot of third-party libraries, which makes it a bit difficult when using its documentation. Another thing we're going to compare is the native look. Here we're comparing how closely does your app resemble an app that was developed using a native programming language or technique. Here React Native has the advantage in that React Native apps look a lot more like natively developed apps. Flutter apps, on the other hand, need a little more work for you to get it to look a little more native. But this may be a disadvantage or an advantage on Flutterpad, depends on what you're going for, because with Flutter it's very easy for you to come up with one design that you can use across both platforms, or you may not want the same design across both platforms, so that'll be a factor for you to be able to consider. Another thing we're going to use to compare the two is the community. This is important because you may come across bugs and issues while developing, and you want a strong community for you to be able to look up resources in case you have issues you face. Here, both have a really strong community. React Native initially had the advantage in that React Native was released earlier than Flutter was, so it had that first mover's advantage in that a lot of people started to develop with React Native. But Flutter has quickly caught up. As at this video, Flutter has more stars than React Native on GitHub, so you can clearly see it has a huge community backing. So both have really strong communities. Another thing we can look at when comparing the two is state management, which is how do these different frameworks handle state. Flutter uses the block state management, which stands for business logic component, while React Native uses hooks. But in React Native, you can also use Redux, which most people prefer to use, and Redux is also available in Flutter. So the last thing we're going to talk about when comparing the two is industry adoption. So remember earlier I said React Native had the advantage of being released before Flutter. So React Native quickly gained a really large industry adoption. But Flutter has such a large community and has quickly gained a large industry adoption too. So both Flutter and React Native have a huge market for you to be able to develop your apps, whether it's to market out your apps or it's to develop apps for a company where you'd like to work at. So both have such a strong industry adoption, and choosing either one of them would be a really good choice for you. So now that I've listed a list of all our different characteristics, the decision on which framework could be best for you is all left up to you. You can decide whether it's the language that matters, is it the community that matters, is it the state management that you choose. Whichever one you decide, you'd be making a very good decision because both of these are really awesome frameworks. My personal favorite is Flutter, but I really love React Native too. So that is all I had for you guys today. I really hope you got something from this video, and leave me a comment down below letting me know which of the two frameworks you'd like to go forward with, whether you'd like to learn Flutter or you'd like to learn React Native. Leave me a like on this video if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.